National government's bad enough, but have a look at what Labour have done in Wales with devolved powers over the last few years. The biggest waiting lists, the NHS.
Again, all parties.
A population increase of 10 million in the last 20 years alone, and 85% of that down to immigration.
In a world where relationships between political figures shape both domestic policies and international alliances, some connections stand out for their impact and unpredictability. One of the most captivating and volatile of these alliances is the triangle involving Nigel Farage, Keir Starmer, and Donald Trump. With Trump's unexpected return to the White House for another 4-year term, political tensions are reaching new heights. Farage's steadfast support of Trump only intensifies these dynamics, while Starmer's long-standing opposition to Trump adds fuel to the fire, setting the stage for a fascinating clash on the global stage.
Well, let me address both of those questions, because I took over the Labour Party 4.5 years ago. We'd just had the worst general election result since 1935. And the pessimists were saying the Labour Party will never win an election again.
Understanding the intricate web of these relationships sheds light on the shifting political landscape in both the UK and the USA. Farage's alignment with Trump, for instance, could have a ripple effect on political sentiments back home, while Starmer may need to tread carefully in this new era. As the leader of the Labour Party in the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer has been anything but a subtle opponent of Donald Trump. Even before Trump's first presidency, Starmer's outspoken stance and the policies he supported marked a clear opposition to Trump's agenda, putting a noticeable strain on their diplomatic ties.
Well, the Labour national government's bad enough, but have a look at what Labour have done in Wales with devolved powers over the last few years. The biggest waiting lists, the NHS, in the whole of the country. Failing education, lunatic woke policies on a scale that is almost unimaginable, not to mention 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, and of course, because of the devotion to the net zero agenda, primary steelmaking in South Wales at an end.
Trump, an unconventional leader with a reputation for holding grudges, has undoubtedly taken note of Starmer's pointed criticisms, particularly on issues Trump views as central to his international agenda. Starmer's approach has often been bold, with statements that reflect his firm opposition to policies central to Trump's worldview. This approach places Starmer in a delicate position, as his strong stance risks further straining relations in an era where diplomatic finesse could be crucial. This tension has simmered for years, creating a precarious relationship between the two leaders. Starmer's strong moral convictions and progressive outlook have frequently put him at odds with Trump's policies, leading him to voice concerns about Trump's approach to governance, which he sees as a threat to democratic principles. Starmer's critiques reflect a fundamental clash of values, adding another layer of complexity to an already fragile political dynamic.
In this election, and I was really surprised and flattered that he noticed I was in the audience.
He was the big winner of the last election in the UK, and he's a very spectacular man, very highly respected, Nigel Farage.
The fallout from these opposing worldviews places Starmer on increasingly thin ice with Trump, and any further moves by him to influence American politics are unlikely to go unnoticed. With Trump back in power, Starmer's previous criticisms could come back to haunt him, as Trump has little tolerance for international figures who openly challenge him. The resulting diplomatic strain could ripple across future UK-USA relations, injecting even more complexity into an already tense alliance. As Trump embarks on his latest term, all eyes are on how his approach might evolve. This time, he may employ more calculated strategies and pay closer attention to those who've opposed him in the past. Starmer, with his outspoken critiques and past efforts to shape public opinion against Trump, might find himself navigating an even more delicate and precarious diplomatic landscape.
We live in probably more volatile world than we've lived in for many decades. It is absolutely crucial that we have a strong relationship, that strong special relationship forged in difficult circumstances between the US and the UK. We will continue to work, as we have done in the 4 months in government, on issues of security, our economy and global conflict.
In recent years, Starmer Starmer has demonstrated a growing willingness to shape international discourse, even aligning himself with American figures who stand in opposition to Trump. This approach underscores his commitment to promoting his values on a global scale, yet it also deepens the rift with Trump, adding yet another layer of tension to their already fraught relationship. Reports suggest that Starmer dispatched supporters to assist Kamala Harris's campaign during the previous election, likely aiming to build alliances with U.S. politicians who share his values. While this move may have been intended to cultivate relationships with like-minded figures abroad, it also risked being seen as interference, particularly from Trump's perspective. Known for his sensitivity to perceived slights, Trump is likely to remember Starmer's support of his opponents. And with his return to power, the potential for political retribution is very real. Starmer may find that his efforts to influence U.S. politics could have unintended consequences, intensifying an already delicate transatlantic relationship. Starmer's past actions, once perhaps dismissed or overlooked, could now become flashpoints. If Trump perceives Starmer's recent moves as undermining his authority, he may respond with tactics that could impact diplomatic ties, forcing Starmer to reconsider his approach. With the stakes higher than ever, any missteps by Starmer could not only strain his relationship with Trump, but also affect the broader UK-USA alliance, amplifying the pressure on both leaders to navigate this complex terrain with caution. In stark contrast to Keir Starmer's contentious relationship with Donald Trump, Nigel Farage's alliance with the American president seems stronger than ever. Farage, a prominent figure in British politics and an outspoken supporter of Brexit, has remained one of Trump's most loyal advocates. Their relationship is marked by mutual admiration, with Farage consistently applauding Trump's no-nonsense approach to politics, a style Farage views as a refreshing shift from the cautious diplomacy typically associated with international relations. This alignment has only deepened over time, positioning Farage as one of Trump's most influential allies across the Atlantic.
Peggy, when you were around working for Ronnie Reagan, relationships with this country simply couldn't have been better, could they?
Yes, that special relationship was as special as it has ever been. But I'll say, even when politicians come and go, and even when we have different sides of the aisle that maybe agree or disagree, I think that the American people and the people in Great Britain continue to have that special affinity for each other.
Farage's alliance with Trump has been powerful for both men. Trump's bold, unfiltered approach to leadership aligns seamlessly with Farage's own populist style, making them a dynamic force for a shared vision that resonates with millions across the US and UK. Farage's unwavering support for Trump's return to power shone through the entire election cycle, and now, as Trump steps back into the presidency, Farage stands as one of his loudest voices of support across the Atlantic. This steadfast loyalty has cemented Farage's reputation as a political figure committed to championing his ideals without compromise. For Trump, Farage represents an international ally who not only shares his vision, but is unafraid to endorse it openly and without hesitation. Together, they embody a bold, cross-continental commitment to reshaping the political landscape. Farage's alliance with Trump has set him apart from many other figures in UK politics, establishing him as a straightforward, reliable partner in a time when political trust feels scarce. For Trump, Farage's support is more than personal allegiance. It's a move that has strengthened Trump's political influence across the Atlantic while elevating Farage's standing in the UK. Through his close association with Trump and his prominent role in Brexit, Farage has crafted a public image that resonates with voters who feel left behind by mainstream political parties. His work with Reform UK has given him a platform to advocate for the kind of change many in the UK are eager to see, particularly on issues of sovereignty and governance. Farage stands as a unique force, appealing to those seeking a return to independence and transparency in British politics.
But the question for us is Donald Trump's election good news for Britain? Now, I think it is, because he's instinctively pro-British. I think it is because when he was president, he was more than happy to do a trade deal with us. The problem was our Conservative government hadn't got Brexit done. We weren't in a position to be able to do so. But given...
As Farage aligns himself with Trump's values, he has gained substantial support in the UK, particularly among voters disillusioned with the current political establishment. By championing a vision that mirrors Trump's nationalist, populist approach, Farage is winning over those frustrated by traditional politics. His visible support for Trump underscores his commitment to this vision, strengthening his credibility with voters who seek leaders unafraid to challenge the status quo. Farage's rising popularity highlights his knack for capturing public sentiment and pushing for the changes many in the UK want to see. His support for Trump and commitment to reform UK's goals have shaped his image as a leader, unafraid to stand by his convictions, positioning him as a prominent figure in British politics and a serious contender for public support. One of the most compelling aspects of the bond between Farage and Trump is their shared dedication to national prosperity and prioritizing their country's interests. Farage has long been a vocal advocate for policies he believes will benefit the UK, from championing Brexit as a way to reclaim sovereignty to pushing for reforms that put British interests first. Trump's America First approach reflects a similar philosophy, emphasizing policies that put the needs of Americans above international commitments. The commitment of both leaders to national interests has deeply resonated with their supporters, reflecting a broader movement toward nationalist policies in both the US and the UK. The relationship between Farage and Trump is rooted in these shared ideals, and their supporters see this alliance as a powerful force for change. As Trump embarks on his new term, and Farage strengthens his influence through Reform UK, their shared vision offers a powerful narrative that resonates with voters across both the UK and the US.
But hey, I've been a very loyal friend over the course of the last 9 years. I've never wavered or wobbled in my support of him, even at times when it hasn't necessarily been that easy.
This alignment has practical implications, as both leaders are set to pursue policies that advance their shared objectives, working together to promote these values. Farage and Trump are positioning themselves as champions of the people, dedicated to creating opportunities for their citizens and challenging the entrenched political order. Despite Donald Trump's past gestures of respect toward Keir Starmer, including reports of a shared meal, Starmer now faces a complex diplomatic landscape. Trump's initial friendly overtures may have hinted at a willingness to establish a working relationship, but it's unlikely he has forgotten Starmer's past actions, including his support for Kamala Harris's campaign. Known for his long political memory, Trump may weigh Starmer's previous moves heavily in their future interactions. For Starmer, this shift means approaching Trump with caution. While he may have once felt secure in opposing Trump's policies on principle, Trump's return to power calls for a more pragmatic strategy. Given Trump's track record of reacting strongly to perceived betrayals, the possibility of retaliation is very real, making this a delicate and potentially volatile relationship.
As the closest of allies, the UK and US will continue to work together to protect our shared values of freedom and democracy.
Starmer's challenge now is to carefully navigate this relationship, striking a balance between his principles and the hard realities of international diplomacy. He may need to reassess his approach, looking for ways to engage with Trump that uphold his values while avoiding unnecessary friction. The stakes are high, as any misstep could have far-reaching consequences, not just for his political future, but also for the UK's relationship with the USA.